What I want to talk about is, firstly, I do want to talk about post-Macondo and the actions that take out from that. I'm then going to talk about safety leadership. That's going to be very individual to you, because that's going to be feedback of how you as individuals are leading your particular industry. And then I want to talk about some of the continuing priorities for myself and my team as regulators, and for you as the operators and people working in the industry. So let's have a look at the Macondo legacy, and I don't make any apologies for that. Macondo still resonates throughout the industry, even though it was many thousands of miles away, but it's still affecting a lot of issues, affecting sort of legislation from Europe, etc. And I think my message to yourselves is that there was a lot of work done, particularly in the UK, to respond to the challenges from Macondo, and I think we can hold our heads up high of the achievements with sort of OSPRAG, the capping device, the guidance which came out of that, and some of the legacy which that's left behind was Life Cycle Practice Forum and the Oil Response Forum. But that's all going to be empty words and just hot air unless what comes out of those forum are actually implemented by yourselves. And it's not just stuff coming out of the UK. A great response by OGP at an international level from Macondo, particularly people like Steve Cromer from ConocoPhillips in the UK led things. And there is now the Wales Expert Group, which is bringing together lessons from well control incidents throughout the world, once again for us to learn in the UK and other issues. So please make sure you keep in contact with the developments from OGP. I think it's essential also that there's the helping of bringing up some of the poor performers by the good performers. You're all in this together. If there's an incident, then that has ramifications for everybody. So there is a sort of almost a cooperative movement here that you need to help each other. And it's part of being open and transparent, of actually trying to find out who are the poor performers, where are the issues, where you can help. And I really commend Oil and Gas UK for actually putting the attributable hydrocarbon release database on their website. That does help. It's a challenge for yourselves as leaders of the particular operators, but it does really help. Looking into the future about the regulators, I think there's a drive for us to be a little bit more joined up with environment to make sure that you as the industry have a much more of a seamless regulation from safety integrity to environmental protection. Like yourselves, we have to respond to the insatiable demands for information, freedom of information, etc. And we also have to respond with yourselves to the Maitland Review. If people aren't aware of the Maitland Review, I'd certainly recommend you read it. Gave a presentation to Step Change Leadership Team only a few weeks ago. But that puts, that's a review, independent review, which looked at the regulatory regime in the UK in the light of Macondo and made a number of recommendations both on regulators and yourselves on the environmental protection and also the safety regulations. So I'd recommend that to you, and that's going to be one of the drivers. And lastly, and it's the only time I'm going to mention it, there is the European Commission regulations. There's a lot of response. That's going to be a dynamic situation over the next year. Over the last couple of years in HSE, we've been doing some one-to-one interviews with a number of people even in the room here, looking at how the real head people in offshore organisations are delivering their sort of safety leadership. We've been looking at the styles which people adopt. We've been looking at the information which they use to give themselves confidence or otherwise about how their particular operation is managing in the current climate. And here we have some of the distillation of those interviews, and I think it will help you to see if this is what you're doing to demonstrate your safety leadership, and if so, there may well be things that you can take away. Certainly we did find that the leaders which we interviewed seemed to be technically well versed. They were able to cope with the technical challenges in your particular industry. They were good at handling information, and they were very intrusive in how they handled information. It wasn't just, let's see the spreadsheets, thanks very much, go there. There's a lot more questioning and challenging of information by those leaders. particularly things like operational risk assessments. Why have we got those on our platforms? Why have we got the backlogs? Where are they? So they real sort of digging down into the data which they were presented. Random samples of going a little bit deeper, to keep the guys below on the toes. And also direct engagement with the offshore management to sort of get them to explain the data to the leadership in order to show, once again, there's a two-way flow of information. Here were particular areas which we felt were improvement opportunities for major hazard leadership within the offshore industry. You get a lot of information, but it tends to be pretty hardware-based, pretty process-based, and not a lot about sort of people, human factors issues. Don't just look at flavours of the month. Don't just look at hydrocarbon releases. Look at the full range of your major accident potential and make sure you have indicators for all of those. There's marine issues, there's ship collision, there's structural issues as well as hydrocarbon releases. And make sure that the information that you get on the not quite perfect issues which you've got, the operational risk assessments, the degraded barriers, that's your vulnerabilities at the moment. Make sure you get good information on that. On the management of contractors, and I know we've got quite a lot of contracting companies here today, there seemed to be almost just an acceptance by the operators of what they're being told by contractors. We felt that leadership needed to be a little bit more intrusive in that to make sure that those people at the top of the tree were actually being intrusive into looking at contractor performance. And interesting on learning, there was a lot of learning, but there was a lot of learning of when things went wrong, which is okay, but there didn't seem to be a lot of learning about what went right. And I think that's just as important for leaders in order to celebrate that and to make sure you carry on doing what you're doing well as learning and improving what you're not doing so well. Achievement of the industry target of hydrocarbon releases by by next year. You've still got a way to go. I think there's been good achievements. That sort of roughly 30% reduction. It looks as if we're getting to that by the end of April, which is our sort of planning year. But still a long way to go. It's still a challenge. Key thing for me, I gave a challenge to all of you to make sure that you have hydrocarbon release action plans, because the reduction in hydrocarbon releases doesn't happen just like that. You've got to work for it. And each of you as individuals have got to make sure your companies have got that plan. And that's something which I've challenged you, and what my guys have been looking at that. So make sure that carries on being dynamic. It gets into your business plans. And I make no apologies that actually we are pretty intrusive in our investigations of hydrocarbon releases. We said we're going to do it, and we are doing it because we feel this is the number one priority for your industry, and we've got to match that priority with our regulatory actions. Integrity is a second priority, and it's almost like the lettering through Brighton Rock for us. It covers a lot of issues. I'm really pleased how you have picked up on ageing and life extension issues with our KP4 programme. It's almost as if you've taken that off our hands, actually, because there's been a lot of energy from yourselves and a lot of sort of self-actualisation. And it's almost as if we've just been a nudge and you've taken the ball, and I think you need to have a lot of congratulations for that. Ageing and life extension is a real challenge for your industry. Spotlight of operational risk assessments that's come out of our work on KP4. Once again, it's a key thing for you to know where you are operating at less than 100% safety, you can manage that. And operational risk assessments have caused us problems in the past. People like BP have done a lot of work, and BP have been pretty good in resolving those issues. And I'd certainly commend people to talk to BP of how they've resolved their issues of ORAs. Verification, key thing for your industry. It's a key part of your safety management system. We're just about to publish some guidance which distills the lessons which we've learned from a project we've done over the last couple of years, and I'd commend that to you, which really shows how you can make sure your verification scheme is actually working. It's not just a tick in a box, but it's actually providing, once again, you as leaders with that raw information about how well your safety critical elements are actually working. And it also provides real information for your asset integrity staff. I mentioned asbestos as well. Asbestos is part of asset integrity. It's linked to aging assets. We have issues in some areas about how asbestos control is being managed offshore. We're doing a project on that over the next couple of years. So you'll be seeing us being quite high profile on that. And throughout this, all the safety case process remains the backbone of your industry with your relationship with ourselves. It's a permissioning regime. We will continue to use the safety case regime. My last slide is workforce involvement. Once again, we feel this is central to the way in which you as an industry manage. Number of issues here which are ongoing, improving the quality of safety rep training, and that's going through a PITO, following work in the OIC workforce engagement group. But don't wait for any more standards to come from a PITO for you to implement. Make sure that you're looking at the training of your safety reps, especially in the major hazard type issues. That's the challenge, I think, in order to get through and to engage them to help you in that sort of area rather than just the occupational slips, trips and falls. We did a survey and report over the last year about how you as an industry have implemented the safety representative regulations. And we have the report out there, which gave, once again, a lot of good practices which you can all individually take on within your particular installations, and which the safety reps as well can take on within the individual installation. So I'd certainly commend that sort of guidance report to you.